By the time you hear this, it'll be draft day in the 2026 NFL season. Unfortunately for Bengals fans, they're going to have to wait at least one more day in order to hear their first pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, unless the Bengals decide to trade up, I guess, into the first round. Not sure that's the right move, so the Bengals need to be accumulating more picks in this draft, maybe a trade back in one of those early rounds, not moving up into the first round. Though, depending on the players that are there, I could be convinced. That's all besides the point. At any rate, the NFL draft kicking off tonight, depending on when you're listening to this, in Pittsburgh. That's the first time this city has hosted the draft since 1948, which is 78 years ago. 78 years ago, here's your fun fact, Harry Truman was the president. Tonight, really tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to it, the second round is when the Cincinnati Bengals are going to start building their roster on the defensive side of the ball, hopefully, around Dexter Lawrence, Boye Mafe, Brian Cook, DJ Turner, Dax Hill, plenty of talent. Now it's time to solidify. Let's talk about it on this episode of Bengals Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. Let's jump into a teeny bit of drama first and foremost. It's been making its way around Twitter, around the Bengals verse a little bit. I don't want to overplay this. I don't want to underplay this. Burrow not being at OTAs. There's sort of just a general where's Joe going on out there right now. So let's make one thing clear. So right now is phase one of the Bengals offseason program. That kicked off this past Monday, April 20th. That was the day that Dexter Lawrence was introduced to the media at Paycor Stadium. Joe Burrow is not with the team in Cincinnati currently. I think he's out in LA, running around out there. Again, phase one is voluntary. This is strength and conditioning, meetings, rehab, no pads, no contact, just reps with teammates, getting together with the guys, getting the mind and the body right as the earliest portion of the season kicks off. Voluntary. I appreciated Mo Egger and Paul Dehner's take on this, and I'm going to echo some of what they said. I don't think his absence is a crisis at all. I think everyone can take a deep breath. But I do think it's notable, right? I do think it's interesting, but it's not necessarily a crisis, is my take, and I believe their take as well. Dexter Lawrence got asked if Joe Burrow reached out to him. Dexter Lawrence said no. That seems interesting. Dexter Lawrence said that Joe Burrow's the reason he's there. Did not say anything else. There's no tearing down or bitterness coming from Dexter Lawrence, but did mention that Joe Burrow is one of the reasons he's in Cincinnati. So it's interesting. It's interesting that Joe Burrow has not reached out to Dexter Lawrence in any way. It's more of an optics thing, a principle thing in my mind. Largely due to pressure from Burrow himself, the franchise just traded their top 10 pick to grab Dexter Lawrence, and we presumably have not reached out to welcome that new pick to the city. Again, I'm not going to ring the alarm bell. I don't think it's a big deal. It's certainly a little interesting, though. It's certainly a little interesting, a little optically weird. It's a little different from how Joe has been in the past. He's going into what, season 6 or 7 now, and up to this point, you would imagine Joe would be with the team, with the guys, all in, getting better, grinding. Doesn't have anything to rehab from right now, so he's probably just enjoying his off season. Got a life out in LA growing up. I see people saying Joe's gone LA on us, maybe. So yeah, I mean, optically it's a little strange if he hasn't reached out to Dexter Lawrence, but he did tweet or Instagram the tires rolling guys, which seemed to be in response to Dexter Lawrence, we're rolling. So Joe is still tapped in. Now June 16th is mandatory mini camp. That's when the alarm bells would start to ring. OTAs are June 1st. So what we're hearing right now is the off-season program, not OTAs. So you'll have to forgive the labeling I did down there at the bottom. I mean, they are optional team activities, so it's technically not wrong, but officially optional team activities are June 1st. All of the activities going on right now are voluntary. That is just the earliest portion of the off-season program. So Burrow has typically been around for these. Again, it's not alarming. It's just interesting. It's not a pattern. It's just 1 week. Then you compare to, say, Mahomes, who is at Chiefs phase 1, but he's rehabbing. Josh Allen is at the Bills phase 1. Lamar Jackson is at the Ravens phase 1. So, by comparison, it's a little strange. Trevor Lawrence, I believe, is there. Drake May is at his. So I don't know. I'm not alarmed. I'm not alarmed. I think Joe Burrow is starting to build a life outside of Cincinnati, especially in the offseason. He's starting to expand his world a little bit. Obviously, us Bengals fans would love for him to be a machine and focus on nothing but football and only football. But that's just not the case. So I would like to see Joe up in Cincinnati soon post-draft. Start to work with the guys, start to talk with the guys, get closer with the team, reach out to Dexter Lawrence, show that you are still just as all in as the team is, who's now taking huge swings to put a team on the field behind you. I agree that it's a little late compared to what should have been done the last few years, but let's keep our eyes on mid-June. That's where we should be concerned if we don't see Joe Burrow, but he will be there. Let's not worry. I bring this segment up just as a way of saying it's made its way around the Twitterverse a little bit. Joe will be there. Joe will be with the team. You hope that when he shows up, he's locked in, he's dialed in, and he's back to being all about winning, all about football. I think fans just They hear some of his comments, I want to be happy doing this. I want to have fun doing this. They see him out in LA, he's barely in Cincinnati, so people, I think, start to piece these things together, and you hope that he's still invested, right? But this is not the point yet to start panicking about those things. It's when May has come and gone and June has come and gone and he's still not around. That's when you start to worry. But eyebrows are raised, certainly. Eyebrows are raised, but panic does not need to set in. Maybe optically just a little strange for what we're used to from Joe Burrow. But all will be well. All will be well. Let's talk about one of the guys who is protecting Joe Burrow. This is sort of a pre-2026 highlight. One of the stars who will be in front of Joe Burrow this season. We as Bengals fans, have to go to battle defending this new revamped offensive line. Amarius Mims is going to be one of the most important pieces of that offensive line and one of the most important pieces of just the Bengals in general this year. And so the question is, which Amarius Mims are we going to get? Going into year 3, had a rough rookie season, 57.5 PFF grade, 96 out of 140 qualified tackles. That's a rookie, though, in a rough division. Not the worst, not the best. It was fine. But it's the split season story in 2025. Really bad in the first half of 2025, even worse than his rookie year. 55.1 PFF grade weeks 1 through 9, allowed 21 pressures and 4 sacks. Terrible against Denver on Monday Night Football, 27.5 or 27.8, PFF grade, lowest of his career. Now something tweaked, something changed. In the back half of the season, 78.2 PFF grade, weeks 10 through 18 for Amarius Mims, which was 13th among qualified tackles in that range. So he was above average in the back half of the season, going from one of the worst to one of the best in the last half. 52.6 to 64.8, leap from rookie to year 2 in run blocking. And looking towards 2026, PFF is calling Amarius Mims their breakout candidate for this season. I think Scott Peters has done a great job with Amarius Mims, working him up, getting his hands in the right place, and really building him into the offensive scheme. It's hyper important when you consider the types of injury Burrow has and where Mims plays and the types of tackles that Burrow can potentially take from that side of the line. If Mims can continue to improve, I think this line goes from average, which they were by the end of the season last year, to above average. I don't think it's going to be a truly great offensive line, but I think they have the opportunity to be good, and I think Dylan Fairchild will continue to progress as well. The Bengals are going into this draft needing a swing tackle, needing some depth, and not necessarily needing a starter, and that's a great place to be. I think that adding Dexter Lawrence is also going to be helpful for this offensive line, not necessarily Mims specifically, but just the line in general. It's that iron sharpens iron mentality. Playing against one of the best to ever do it should hopefully allow Amarius Mims to take that leap in 2026. So before 2025, we heard Mims tell us that he wants to be a Pro Bowler. He wants to take that big step. Didn't quite get there in year 2, but the second half of the season did show that he has that potential within him. So in year 3, still a really young guy. I think he's in his early 20s as well. Year 3, Scott Peters fully involved in the offensive line, fully installed now for the Bengals. Orlando Brown Jr. on the opposite side, continuing to mentor him up. I think Mims is going to be a vital piece for the Cincinnati Bengals in 2026 if he's able to recapture that magic from the back half of the 2025 season. Showed us true great potential and could be an anchor for this offensive line for the future. I mean, this is a guy who wants to be playing himself into a nice fat extension in the next couple of seasons, a couple more years on his rookie deal. If Mims can continue to progress, Burrow will be healthy, the offense will hum along, playoffs will call, and so will a big payday for Amarius Mims. Let's talk about that window and holding it open. Amarius Mims, one of the guys who's responsible for it. As we look towards 2026, this seems like maybe the first time in the last few years the front office has really held open that window. Joe Burrow, 29, Jamar Chase, 25, T. Higgins, 27, Dexter Lawrence, 28, Boye Mafe, 26, DJ Turner, still a young guy. He'll be a free agent after this season. I mean, that's your core, right? A few of those guys are the best to ever do it, and week in, week out, the best players at their position. You would think that's enough to get it done, right? And by get it done, I'm going to set the bar at playoffs. Anything can happen in the playoffs. You can bounce after one round. You can make a run and go to the Super Bowl. The Bengals at least have to give themselves a chance with this roster. Dexter Lawrence, maybe the best nose tackle of all time, now a member of your team. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the best any given week at the helm. Same with wide receiver. DJ Turner, potentially the best cornerback any given week. I mean, there's really no excuses. And so the window is now wide open, right? As long as the Bengals can stick the landing. You would think, if you're looking at this window, let's say Burrow stays in Cincinnati. 29-34 this season, another 5 years. Certainly another 3. Right? You got Burrow for another few years, Chase for another few years, Higgins, Dexter Lawrence for another few years, hopefully an extension for DJ Turner. I think this is the beginning of a now smaller window. This should have been a nice 6-year window. But now I think the front office is creaking open this next 3-year window. That's how I look at it. And, I think if Burrow sticks around till he's in his mid-30s, there's still a chance. But I'm looking at the next 3 years as this true window for the Cincinnati Bengals. The conditions, of course, are Burrow staying healthy. If Burrow is on the field, I think the Bengals are a playoff team. If Burrow is not on the field, they're not. 2024 proves to be the exception, but that was potentially the worst defense in NFL history that we saw playing that year. one of the reasons Burrow is in a potentially bad headspace nowadays. Burrow in the past has said the window is his whole career. ESPN has echoed those sentiments. I think that's true, but you have to build around him, and this is the first time in the last maybe 5 years the Bengals have actually done that around Joe Burrow. So I look at this offseason as the reopening of maybe a 3-year run. If they can get a good 3-year run out of this core, God willing, they go to the playoffs 3 years in a row, maybe get one Super Bowl run out of that. I'm not saying win, but get to the Super Bowl one out of those 3 years, a couple AFC championship appearances. I think that would be great. So what is success? Well, that is my definition. I think the floor, the absolute floor, is making the playoffs in 2026. I really think it's winning a game in 2026 in the playoffs. Missing the playoffs in 2026, catastrophe. Absolutely catastrophic. You're talking head coaches being fired, front office being fired, Joe Burrow potentially requesting a trade, Jamar Chase maybe wanting out. 4 years of missed playoffs with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase is an absolute 5-alarm nuclear fire that you cannot have. So the window has to be 26, 27, 28 for this team. You want to keep Joe happy. You want to ease the tensions a little bit. You make the playoffs at least this year and see what happens. You can't miss the playoffs though in 2026. A 2 to 3 year championship sprint is what I'm now seeing for this team. Let's see what happens after the 2028 season, but for now you got a 3-year run. Right now FanDuel has the Bengals at about 16th in the league for the Super Bowl. I think that's fair based on what we've seen. Show me that you're improved before we give you better odds. I think that's totally fair. Again, I don't actually hate those odds. I think if you're a betting man or woman, 2,500 is not awful. Look, the moves were right. The roster is certainly better. Bengals have to prove, though, now on the field that they are better. But I think the window is now, next year, the year after. You got a bunch of 3-year kind of bulk contracts. I think that's what this front office is looking at. Have to make the playoffs in 2026. Then if we don't, you're having a serious conversation about Joe Burrow requesting out. He is under contract. He is here, but he holds a lot of leverage. And he wants to win. So, there's a world where if this thing goes sideways yet again, and it's not the offense's fault, Burrow could want out. But you're looking at a front office that's gone all in. I mean, I don't know how Burrow could look at what the front office has done this offseason and be unhappy about it. The only thing I could say is why didn't you do it in 23, 24, 25, right? We should have been having these growing pains 3 years ago instead of now, is his counter-argument. But let's stay positive. This team is built now to compete and built to compete in the AFC North. And our final topic of the day, the final topic before the 2026 NFL Draft, is the AFC North arms race. My goodness. So the current odds to win the AFC North, this is pre-draft. If you're listening to this post-draft, this is pre-draft. Ravens at -120, Bengals in second at +190, Vegas still leaning Baltimore. Steelers at +425, Browns at +1,800. The gap did close a little bit post Lawrence trade. The implied probability of all this is a 55% chance for the Ravens, 34% chance for the Bengals, and that leaves the 11% chance for the other two teams being split down below. I think that's fair, though. This is one of those things where I hate the Ravens, but you cannot argue that their recent success is slightly better. Even though they didn't make the playoffs last year, they've got Lamar Jackson, they added Trey Hendrickson. It's more of a pedigree conversation. They did lose a lot of their players. They only added Trey Hendrickson. That organization is just a little bit more stable. Doesn't mean I don't disagree, but I can see where Vegas is coming from. Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP. He's still in his prime. Jesse Minter's got a great defensive mind. That should turn around some of the biggest woes that the Ravens have had. Trey Hendrickson now a part of that team. Makes me gag thinking about it. We know what Trey can do. Trey now going against the Bengals twice a year. Ravens missed the playoffs, remember, by a missed field goal, despite all their woes. Pittsburgh, TJ Watt, terrifying, though maybe not as of late. Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, a talented young player. Aaron Rodgers, maybe. The Steelers won the division last year at 11 wins. Is that true? No, they had to have had 9 wins. I think my stats were wrong there. Steelers did win the division last year, but it was not at 11 wins. The Steelers are a team that you never really know, though, right? It seems like at any given point they could just go on a run. They're very steady, right? If the teams in the division falter, the Steelers can really ramp up. And that's where things are kind of curious with the Steelers. Cleveland, they're in rebuild mode. They got a couple picks in the first round. They added a little offensive line help. But here's where the Bengals can win it. Lawrence legitimately changes that defense. Their run defense was awful. Their interior pass rush was non-existent, and that legitimately has changed if Dexter Lawrence can stay healthy. If Burrow can stay healthy, he's a top quarterback in football, and this team is a playoff team. The AFC North, 3 new head coaches, a question mark at quarterback for both the Browns and the Steelers, question mark at defense and offensive line for the Ravens. The Bengals are in a spot with their opponents next year that they should feel confident with what they've built. There should be a real confidence moving through the Cincinnati Bengals division. Again, I think plus 190 to win the division is pretty good value if you're a bettor. Trey Hendrickson in a Ravens jersey is going to sting, but I think that's softened a bit by what the Bengals have now done in free agency. So pre-draft, I'm feeling okay about the Bengals' chances to win the division, make the playoffs, and go on a run. But it's all going to depend on the 2026 NFL draft. Currently, the Bengals picking in the 2nd round, the 3rd round, the 4th round, a couple picks in the 6th round, and then on to the 7th we go. Need linebacker help, need cornerback help. Could use some love at tight end, could use some love at offensive tackle. I've said it many times. Give me a cornerback, linebacker, 2 and 3. I think we're in a dream scenario here. Give someone to come in and compete with Barrett Carter. Maybe a little post-draft trade. Give Burrow no more excuses to be upset with this front office. You know, make him really go out and show his stuff on. Not that he needs to prove anything, but give him some help. And I think that the front office has done enough to quell my fears a little bit. We'll see what they end up doing in the 2026 NFL draft. Next time you hear from me, the first round will be in the books. We, in theory, won't have heard any picks from the Cincinnati Bengals by the time you hear from me next, but we'll talk about those picks next week. 2nd and 3rd round picks from the Bengals coming up on Friday. Cannot wait to get into those. And then the later round picks going into the weekend. We got a lot to talk about tomorrow and next week. Cannot wait to get into it. Football season is finally here, football fans. We are officially back. This has been Bengals Daily. I've been Dave Olson. Talk to you next time.